You made it. You're on the do's and don'ts. Really, really important. I'm so glad you're here because it is important, because in day 5, you're going to be out, you know, clearing stuff, kind of getting reads and, oh, what's that? What's that? Couple do's and don'ts. One key do's and don'ts, it's not like super critical, but it is. It's kind of just getting the intention of what you're using this for. Like, you're using this for to help these entities move on. You're not really changing people, like you're picking up trash, but there's a couple things you want to do. It's like if you picked up trash in the park, no one would mind. But if you go into someone's house and start picking up trash, you probably get in trouble, right? So it's kind of like that. You don't want to cross thresholds or boundaries where you're not supposed to be. Like, you wouldn't like sneak into someone's house and start doing a whole bunch of etheric restores. You wouldn't necessarily do it. Like, if you're invited in, you're pretty much got a free pass. We don't want to necessarily go into someone else's house and being like, oh, that's a funky energy, I'm gonna clear it. Etheric restore, etheric restore. Oh, I think there's ghosts, etheric restore. You don't want to necessarily do that in other people's houses that they haven't said, hey, yeah, go for it, right? But if something gets on you, like you go into someone's house and it feels like you can do etheric restore on you all day long. As soon as the ghost comes and touches you, fair game. You can clear it. You can even clear the room if you start feeling like there's stuff getting on you. Like, bunk this, etheric restore in this room. But if you're going to other people's house and you don't have permission, I don't recommend doing it. Now, if you're in a public place where you have permission to go in, like a supermarket or something, like, yeah, etheric restore all day long. You've been invited in to do that. And the same if you're outside, like if you're looking into an apartment, same thing. You're doing etheric restore and you think, hey, wait, that's clearing houses. And you would clear in the house, but it's a permission because you're outside. You're not crossed the threshold, right? Because you have there's like a house boundary. There's a house protection. There's threshold protection to where like you're making the invitation like, hey, anybody in there that wants to come and get cleared out, boom. And you're doing that versus going into the house, crossing that boundary, and then clear this, clear that, right? So just a place to do it. Like, we don't suggest, you just don't go into other people's house and start throwing it. Like, yeah, it'd be weird. It's just like, it'd be weird to go into someone else's house and like, whoa, look, you got a lot of trash, and start picking it up and throwing it out without asking them. I mean, they might be like, oh, that's cool, I'm glad you're picking up, but it'd also be weird. You know, they probably feel weird of like, and you go in there and start cleaning their mirror and stuff like that. They just be like, dude, what are you doing? This feels weird. Same thing. Don't do that. And then also like bigger so, like haunted house, right? Where you don't have permission to go. Don't go messing in there. Don't go in there. You can do it from outside. Oh, etheric restore my house, good, all day long. But you don't necessarily want to be crossing that threshold where you're not supposed to be. Because now, like, whatever protections, you're kind of giving them up by crossing a threshold that you have not been invited into. I mean, it's different when you're in your friend's house, but now this is in your friend's house. This is some haunted house that you're like, oh, cool, let's go in there and play and mess around. Don't use the etheric restore in there. Don't mess around. You can go in there. I'm not saying you're not allowed to go in there. Well, you probably shouldn't because it's trespassing and stuff like that. So it's a different conversation. And if you did go in there and you left and you felt something on you, yeah, etheric restore, get it off. But I don't recommend doing that, but definitely if you're in there and you illegally cross the threshold, ooh, you're best off just leaving. Like, if you feel something get on you, just leave and then etheric restore and you're good. But doing it inside while it's on, it's a possibility of pulling stuff on you more so. And especially if you're not, but it's just like, just don't do illegal things and you're kind of gonna be good. You're not gonna have a problem. Don't do weird things. Like, you wouldn't go in someone else's house and start cleaning it. You know, just don't do weird things. Another one is like cemeteries. Like, you're totally fine if you're outside a cemetery, etheric restore. I do it all the time when I'm passing cemeteries, etheric restore, because there's just entities that, ghosts, and they're just stuck in a pattern. The poor things haven't got to move on, right? And it's just doing them a service of like, oh, etheric restore and your highest good. But you don't go in to a cemetery. Like, if you don't have a family member or a reason to be in there, I wouldn't recommend going into a cemetery and etheric restoring on headstones and stuff like that, because you're not really supposed to be there, and it's kind of a threshold crossing. So it's like, you're just better off doing that. Now, if you have a family member and you're going to visit, I still wouldn't do other people. Like, you could do your family connection headstone, or if it's like a mausoleum and like your whole family, etheric restore. Or if you're going to visit your family and something touches you and is on you, okay, etheric restore my aura. I'm okay, 10 feet around me, don't come in here, I'm etheric restoring it. So if you don't want to be cleared, don't come near me, kind of thing. That's fine. But it's just kind of like the whole, like, if you weren't invited there, because it's a place where there's most likely to be a lot of ghosts that are like, it's their resting place. It's not like you're walking around and they stuck on you and it's like, hey, I was here, what are you on me for? It's like you're in their resting place and you're kind of like, hey, let me mess with you, when you're not supposed to. But when you're outside of the cemetery, that's fair game. that you're outside. You're not going to penetrate that kind of barrier and interfere with them. You're going to be an invitation of, hey, anybody in there that kind of don't like this anymore, kind of feel stuck? Let me help you. Etheric restoring my high is good. Whew. And then finally, this one where I don't think you would be, I just wouldn't recommend doing this at all. Don't go into possible cursed places. Like, you know, like breaking into a pyramid and, you know, doing etheric restoring, clearing stuff and mucking about there, or going underneath, you know, buildings that are catacombs and tombs that you ain't supposed to be in, and then actively etheric restoring. Wouldn't recommend doing that. Wouldn't recommend using a tool like that. If that is just, I mean, there's some places that are public and you're allowed to go in. It's still a little, it's kind of like if they have a place where it's like a sanitarium, and it's like an old one, and you know, the real horrible stuff went in there, and you kind of like, it's kind of public, but not public. And it's like, it's just, you're better off not, unless you've been invited to go, hey, you're here to go do a clearing on the place, and invited by the business to go do that, then yeah, you know, they're restoring your high is good. It's a little advanced, you know, it's a little advanced. Maybe just do it on your stuff around. Don't necessarily go and seek it. Unless you have more experience or have someone like me with you, and then we're like, hey, we'll go in there if we're invited. Like, I wouldn't do it if I'm not invited, because it's kind of like the business can kind of want that energy still to be there. So going in there clearing it when the energy was requested, it just makes a weird vibe, right? There's no need from the outside though. If there's stuff in there that wants to go, they're restoring your highest good. But then also, like, you know, cursed places and tombs and all that stuff. If for some reason you're on a tour and they're touring you through that, just, you know, just keep it on you. It's like, hey, look, just nothing in my aura. You know, etheric restoring my high is good. And if you've been doing this a lot, you're kind of going to have that energy of like, when you hear, you're going to go. You know, you're going to get etheric restored. This is going to happen. Like, you just got that energy of like etheric restore. Like, I used to have tons of entities on me. They don't really show up, because it's just in general of like etheric restore. Hey, I've got the energy of like, we're moving on, right? So you could do that if you want to go to that tour. I'm not saying you can't go to those tours and stuff like that. Just be like, hey, etheric restore in my aura. If you come in, I'm going to ask you to be moving on, but you're not, you know, going into their home and asking them to move on. So hopefully those do's and don'ts help. It's really nothing to be dangerous. It's just, you know, just a couple places where you just don't want to go do. It's like, pretty much if you're doing something you ain't supposed to be doing, don't try to use a tool like this. Does that make sense? Because this tool is about helping and moving things forward. And you don't really get favor when you're kind of being a jerk and doing something you ain't supposed to be doing. That makes sense. So hopefully you probably won't even ever come across it, except for possibly the cemetery where like you're walking through and you're like, hey, wouldn't that be awesome? Let me clear all the tombstones. No, let's not do that. You know, because they have a boundary. There's a cemetery boundary, even if it's open, but from a distance. Oh yeah, help them out. Help them out. Anything where you're not crossing a boundary, you can do. So hope that's awesome. With the do's and don'ts, shouldn't be too bad. If you do run into something, let me know. I can help you out. I also have people that can help you out. So, but don't go doing that, okay? Do's and don'ts. This is super safe tool. That's why it's here. Like if you did anything from day, 1 through 4, you're not gonna ever run into that. Day 5, where we kind of have you out and going and stuff, you could possibly run into it, but you should be all good. And you unlocked the bonus one. So see you on day 6 on what you can do. And until we talk again, hopefully it's on day 6, have a blessed day or a blessed night.